Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on today's webinar, all about the Young Living Gold Retreat highlights. Now, I was very fortunate enough to attend this year's Gold Retreat, which was in Spokane, Washington from 31st July till August 4th. So today I'm just going to give some highlights and all the amazing things and experience that I learned while I was on the retreat so that I can share with you. And first, we're going to watch a beautiful clip that was done by the video team to summarize what the event was all about.
And now it's your time as a Gold. Those of you that are here today, you are the movers and shakers of our business. When we talk about community, we talk about power, we talk about Young Living, we're talking about this group.
We're here in Spokane, Washington at Young Living's Gold Retreat. You get a gorgeous backpack full of swag that you're going to use the whole time. It doesn't get any better than that. So Gold Retreat is a experience for those who have worked really hard to get here, to be shown the utmost appreciation from Young Living.
I'm looking forward to today. I hope I can learn a lot and I can share to my team.
The step from silver to gold is the toughest one we have in our compensation plan. The thing that you need to know in order to take you to the next level is here today. Pay attention.
The retreat has been amazing so far. We're going to the farm to see the seed to sail. And just to be able to touch and see and smell, it's going to be an amazing experience. So, very excited about that.
There's nothing like being on a farm and really seeing where our oils come from.
The energy when you're at the farm, the feel of the farm is just so refreshing.
It really takes you back to the roots of the company and why we're all here.
It's been my privilege to be here, to be part of Young Living family.
We had so much fun. It was amazing experience. So we got wet a little bit. It was so much fun, and we are thankful to Young Living. And what can I say? The best company on earth.
Gold Retreat is incredible. Golds are a dynamic, energetic group of leaders. They're excited to keep growing, and the team building we see from river rafting and planting lavender at the farm and just being a part of this experience is really phenomenal.
Celebrate success. Train, educate, motivate, and lead.
So that was a lovely recap, and it's quite nice watching it again because it feels like, being back there again. And I really hope that you all get to experience it. And Young Living is such a generous company that they really look after the members. So everything, all expense was paid for, the trip, the hotel, and everything. So it's pretty special. And then next up, I got a chance to also visit the Highlands Flats Tree Farms in Naples, Idaho. Now, this wasn't part of the retreat because I arrived a couple of days earlier. So a bunch of friends and I decided to rent a car and visit the farm. And it was about an hour or 2 hours away from Spokane. It was literally, you didn't have to cross the border for too long. And we would arrive at the Highlands Flats Tree Farm, which is one of their newer farms. And here I'm sitting on a mound of Idaho balsam fir plant material. So you've got the needles, the wood chips, the stems, like everything from the entire plant. And at the bottom left, you see that that's actually the Idaho balsam fir tree. And you see that there are these two cooks, and they were just loading fresh batch of Idaho balsam fir ready to be distilled. And it was actually pretty amazing because just seeing the entire process, the distillation process, testing, it was pretty magical. Just a few facts about this farm. It's actually about 800 acres. And usually to distill in one cook, and like in one of these cookery, it's about 10 to 15 tons of wood chips. And from that, they can distill about 10 to 12 liters of essential oil. And the time it takes to distill Idaho balsam fir is about 3 hours. Another fact, in one of these cooks, you can put about 300 to 500 trees. So that's a lot of plant materials. And in one of these cooks, once they distill, they can get about 10 liters, usually in the harvest, like about 10 liters. But if they're good trees, and what they meant by good trees is, when they're able to get a higher yield, and that's when they can get 40 liters of essential oil. And roughly it takes about 10 to 15 years to grow Idaho balsam fir. And once they get to about 6 to 8 feet tall, then that's when it's ready to harvest. So now you can truly understand the painstaking process they take to get these precious little bottles to us. So they have to wait, 10 to 15 years for the tree to grow in order for them to harvest. So if you have a bottle of Idaho balsam fir, I highly recommend you to take it out later at the end of this webinar and just truly appreciate where it comes from, and to know that they've had to wait 10 to 15 years and then growing and to harvesting, to distilling and testing, all the way to sealing the bottle and getting into your precious little hands. And here is them loading the fresh batch of Idaho balsam fir wood chips. And you can see on the right, to the far right, it was an older batch, so it was slowly drying out, so it's about a bit brownish color. So the fresh ones that was coming out had green, and it was just really fresh. And you can see, you can absolutely smell, from the trucks, offloading it, and it was just amazing. And the managers at the farm just said, yeah, play around, take some home. So a bunch of my friends, we had some bags with us, and we, took handfuls of these balsam fir wood chips, to bring it back home with us, so that we can, share it with our friends and family and members. And next up, so this is Michael. He's one of the manager at the farm. And in the left picture, this is where they bring the oil. Once it's been distilled, they would put in these stainless steel drums. And then they obviously, filter it out even more. and then come to testing stage. So the middle is where their lab is. And that white machine is what we call the GCMS machine, gas chromatography mass spectrometry. And this is where they test on the quality and the constituents of each oil. And on the right, that's where they have the certificate of analysis. So this is where they can truly mark every single constituent, the contents of each oil, and the levels of it. And so this is where they kind of start to compare, okay, is there any discrepancy? What's going on? And remember, because everything is so pure and not adulterated, every batch is different. Because as you can tell, depending on when they were harvested, the season, the rainfall, and that's why every single piece of analysis would be different. But it wouldn't be too far off, but of course it would have some sort of variation. And this is just a quick tour from the top of the cook, and then we go down into the actual distillery. So you see this column on the far left. So this column can pretty much fit about 7 liters of essential oil. So the top layer is where the oil, that's the oil. Once it's distilled, it's been goes through the heat source. So that cook that you saw. So they pack all the plant materials. And then they would have a heat source, like so water and heat source. So when it heats up, steam forms. So the steam would pick up all these oil sacs from the plants. And then it would go through a condenser, a cooling coil. And then when it cools down, the oil and water would separate. So at the bottom is where you get the floral water, which is what we call a hydrosol. And then the top layer is the pure essence of the plant, which is the essential oil. And that day they were distilling balsam fir. And that middle picture is, you see, it's actually the machine that actually creates the steam. And there was actually a hole at the end of it where we can actually see like the heat source and the fire, like, whirling inside. It was actually pretty amazing. So with balsam fir, when they distill, most of the oil comes in the first hour. So that's where all the precious oil and the properties, and that's where they get majority of the oil from. And then after that is just the tail end of it. And on the far right, you can also see the stainless steel drum. So besides Idaho balsam fir, the Highlands Flats Tree Farm also distill blue spruce, Idaho blue spruce. So that's where the word Idaho comes from, if anybody wanted to know. So that drum next to me contains a fresh batch of blue spruce. And I happen to have a little bottle of blue spruce with me in my bag. So that is just me taking a picture next to the next batch of blue spruce. And here's a little fun fact. In that stainless steel container, they can bottle 6,000 of 5 ml bottles of Idaho blue spruce. So that's pretty amazing. And I remember when Michael was turning on and off the tap, like next to the full column, that little glass column, every one of us got a drop, like, like from the tap, just dripping the last drops. And we've got them on our palm, and we smelled it for the first time, just fresh out of the columns of distillery. And everyone was just totally mesmerized and just amazed. And it actually smelled really just a little bit different from what we get in the bottle. And that's what Michael says, like, this is it. Like, this is when it's just at its freshest out from the distillery and plants. And then we would move on to day one of the retreat. So this was the day where we got our registration done, picked up all our swag and goodies. As you can see, like from the video and from this hall, you can see like everyone's just queuing up. We got tons of really, really nice stuff to keep, and they really do spoil us. Like, we got a bag, shirt, and because we went rafting, they gave us a waterproof phone cover, water bottle, a notepad, the new SPF 50 mineral sunscreen, glasses, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And that day, we had our first welcome dinner, and it was really nice. We had great food, and it was a free float Ningxia Red. So a lot of us couldn't go to sleep that night because some people were jet lagged, and then also we were having tons of like little Ningxia shots here and there. And it was really nice connecting with friends and people that I haven't seen in a while and that I would have met in some of these events. So it was really lovely connecting again. And then day two was moving on to training. So we had pretty much a full day of training from various speakers, company execs, and a surprise guest speaker. I'm just going to summarize just a few things from that just highlight that really I found really important to share. And here they are. So the first is from Dr. Chad Goodman, and he is global educator and trainer for Young Living. So here are just a few of his slides that I love to share. And here it says, achieve your best self, and you are able to help and inspire others. When you are leading, sharing, and building with real intent, others will follow. That vision and passion will become infectious. And I really do believe this is true, especially in what we're doing. It's so important to be authentic to yourself and speak your truth, know your story, and inspire others with who you are. And because when you are true to yourself and authentic, you will start to have a following, and you will start to inspire so many people out there and help others along the way. So just by sharing, you're already creating a rippling effect in changing people's lives. And here, he talks about self-care. And, self-care is so important these days because a lot of people don't pay enough attention to ourselves. We're always looking out after others, the people, and we just don't look after ourselves enough. And then this will, evidently lead to chronic illnesses. If we can't look after ourselves, how are we expected to look after others? So here are some pretty important stats that he's found. 35% of Americans are chronically stressed. 43% of Americans suffer adverse health effects from stress, and it costs the government $300 billion a year. 60 to 80% of primary care doctor visits are related to stress, and only 3% of the patients receive stress management for help. So you can see the massive gap there is in how we can help and how you can help. and how the oils can help people with stress management. And finally, 42% of people report lying awake at night due to stress. It's one of the big epidemics that's going around these days, and it's really something that is overlooked, and people don't pay enough attention, and people don't really link it to stress. As you know, stress is the number one silent killer. So why self-care is so important? Because when we look after ourselves, our bodies are intelligent and has the ability to heal, given the right tools and platform. So here, this is what happens, the effects of stress on the body. You have all sorts of ailments and diseases that come up because of stress. Because when you're stressed, your body just goes into this fight-flight mode, and a lot of your body functions shut down. And first thing that shuts down is your digestive system. And if from my previous webinars and what I've been sharing, that your digestive system houses 70% of your immune system. So you imagine if that's not functioning optimally, then your immune system is compromised. That's why self-care, is so important. Use the oils, daily. Share with people around you, because I truly believe it's all about prevention. The more we prevent, rather than getting to that cure stage, is going to be ultimately much better, because then, we get to live healthier and happier lives. So we start to have prevention, like the mindset of prevention, then we won't get to the point of when it's too late or when it's a little bit more challenging. And also, chronic stress, disrupts the natural balance required for our optimal health. It also speeds up the aging process. It also increases the body's susceptibility to illness. Because remember, when your immune system is low, then that's when, your body is just compromised. So here are some techniques that you might want to consider that can help you cope and deal with stress. So for one, of course, use oils, inhale as much as possible, because when you inhale, it goes straight to the limbic system to alter your moods and emotions, applying it, diffusing it. So every way that you can use the oils daily, do so. Also practice some calming activities, going for walks, meditation, do some yoga, Tai Chi or Qigong, something relaxing. Perhaps you might want to organize your work area so that it can be clutter-free, because when your environment is cluttered, it also affects your mind and your state of mind, state of being. Cluttered environment can also translate to cluttered mind. So best that you remain clutter-free, so it's one less thing to worry about. You might also want to think about planning your schedules better, so you're not stressed or constantly thinking, where do I need to be, or I have so many things to do. So when you sit down and take time to write your schedules or use a planner, you'll feel more organized, and then you're not filled with anxiety and feel all this anxiousness building up. Also, perhaps prioritizing certain tasks, like what's more important to you for the day. I found this tip really helpful. Write your top 3 things that you want to achieve for the day, and then do it. After that, it's up to you whether you want to do more or just take the day off, because those top 3 things that you set out to achieve the day, and if you've done it, then great. And also helps to focus one thing at a time. Sometimes I know we love to multitask, but it just means that it's undivided attention, and you just don't get to maximize your output and efficiency. And finally, if some things you start and get a bit overwhelmed, maybe start to delegate some tasks that you think someone might be able to help you with. So sometimes we think that we can do everything and we pile it on, but when we want to be efficient and it's something that maybe we're not good at, it's much easier to delegate that to someone else who can do a much better job. So all this leads to more stress-free life. And finally, here's a quote that he shared. The most powerful weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another. Train your mind to see the good in this day. So this is beautiful when we start to incorporate some of the emotional oils and the spiritual oils. I've seen and I witnessed some tremendous shifts in some people using the oils for this reason. So this is, something we should consider. Mind's so powerful. And next, I'd love to share with you about the Young Living Foundation. So some of you might not be aware of them or know that they exist, but it is amazing. The work that they do, I'm just in awe, and to constantly hear the projects that they're up to, it's amazing. So I'll let you watch this video so you can understand more about what they do. So a little backstory on how Gary Young started the Young Living Academy in Ecuador. So one day he was just driving through a road and he decided to take a different path, and he saw this place and kids, and he just decided, I think we need to build a school there. So and then that's really how the Young Living Academy started. So Greg Larson, who's the director of the Young Living Foundation, he shared with us this really important concept of rounding up and the compounding power of rounding up. So as we know how powerful the compounding effect is, so he said that every time when we make a purchase, whether it's your Essential Rewards or your standard order, there's an option at the checkout stage where you can round up to the nearest dollar. So on the far left, you can see the funds raised through rounding up through June. So through June of this year, they raised about $533,427. But he said the potential could be almost double. It could be double that. So that is if we get, more people to round up to the nearest dollar. It could be 1 cent. It could be 20 cents. It could be 50 cents. It could be any amount rounded up. And you also have an option of donating more if you choose to, and you have a choice of where you'd like to donate, which cause in the Young Living Foundation, or you just want a general donation. And then in the middle column, he describes pennies left on the table. So this is if, people who had just, spare pocket change left on the table, or if anybody would just, be willing to donate to the foundation, like, if they've got 50 cents or, $1 or $2 left on the table, and if they actively donated to the Young Living Foundation, that is what the potential that they could get, 2,663,000. But the potential is 5 million. So that's why when they add those two together, the potential is just, astronomical, like what they can achieve with that money. And also remember that 100% of your donation to the Young Living Foundation goes directly to the foundation. So Young Living takes care and pays and covers for all the admin costs. So when you donate whatever amount, that amount goes directly to the foundation. And Greg also said to, constantly be engaged frequently through all actions repeatedly, because the more we share, the more we're able to empower and impact. And, for some people who are philanthropists and, who are more compassionate beings and who love to do community service work, this is your chance to be a part of something greater and bigger than, just with oils or the products. So this is actually something that speaks really true to me, because, just 2 to 3 orders, that we make, 2 to 3 months, that alone can save the life of a child, because they have malaria testing for, only $1, and so many different things that we can do, feed a child, a homeless kid, or, give them shelter or shoes even. So the next time when you speak to people, whether it's your members or new people that are interested in Young Living, mention about this during the enrollment. Talk about rounding up, and also talk about, how much that this would help, how much Young Living is doing, the foundation is doing towards community service work. And I've actually been rounding up all my orders for a couple of years now. Ever since I heard about this, every month I've just been rounding up. And, I believe that has made a difference in someone's life and some kid's life, halfway across the world. And so this is just a little quick breakdown of how it works. And this is also another fact. If every member worldwide rounded up to the nearest dollar, so every time they place an order, they round it up, they're able to raise $4 million a year. And remember, all this $4 million goes directly to the foundation. And Young Living's aim is to end modern slavery in Africa. So it's pretty big, and among so many different projects they have. And this is a little graphic that you can see. So once you get to the in your order, you can select a tick that rounds up to the Young Living Foundation. And here are some of the projects that you can be a part of, or that that your money is going to something really worthwhile. building in Nepal. So they built 112 homes after the earthquake. The Academy in Ecuador. And since they opened, every single year, they've had 100% graduating class at the Academy, all from, support from the community and all the members. They've got Hope for Justice, Healing Faith Uganda, which actually gives mosquito nets to families there. African Hearts, Soul Hope, so giving kids with some shoes to, I think it was, they were saying it was like the Chiga, like some virus that they were having. So this gives them some hope in not contracting the disease. And here's just another little video that is really, really nice.
Did you know that in 2016, the Young Living Foundation raised over $500,000 from our members, rounding up from their orders? This year, our newly automated Roundup feature lets you conveniently round up each and every order. While we've had many members participate in our Roundup program, can you imagine the impact if every member rounded up their order? This pile of pennies represents our potential if every member rounded up their order to donate their cents to the Young Living Foundation. However, these pennies represent the number of members who took the opportunity to round up their orders. Imagine the difference we could make with those extra cents. It would be around $4 million total. With your spare change added to everyone else's to raise $4 million, the Young Living Foundation can turn your pennies into real change. With the amount raised, the foundation could provide 800,000 mosquito nets, or build 800 houses in Nepal, or give 400,000 pairs of shoes to villagers at risk of jiggers, or deliver thousands of meals to the slums of Uganda, or offer more education for the children of Ecuador, and provide many other types of aid to people in need around the globe. Ready to get involved and add your pennies to the pile? To activate this feature, simply log into your virtual office account and click on Essential Rewards. Under the Payment Method tab in My Monthly Order, click Change Payment, and you'll see the automatic roundup option. Check the box and you're good to go. All your Young Living orders, including quick orders and phone orders, will now round up to immediately benefit the Young Living Foundation. Plus, you even have the option to add an extra contribution to your order as well. That's all it takes to make a big difference with your small change. Every penny counts.
So besides rounding up for the last couple of years, I've also started to have a sponsor child in Ecuador through Young Living. So you can also look at that too. So I really highly encourage checking out their website so you can see more about the good work they do. So that was day 2. And also our special guest for the day training was from Brendan Burchard. Some of you might have heard of him. He's an amazing motivational speaker and trainer. So Young Living surprised us, and it was a great, great talk. And we all each got a copy of his book, High Performance Habits. And this is his 6 high performance habits that he explained to us. And it's actually all written in a book, but here I'm just going to roughly go through my little takeaways from each of those points. And so under personal, seeking clarity. Now that just, to me, is who do you want to be as a person? So once you're clear with that, moving forward with, a plan or your vision or your dream and goal is just so much easier. So you have that kind of clarity. Generating energy. Now here he shared a really interesting fact. He said, when we check emails in the first hour of, just after waking up, we tend to be 30% less productive in the week. And these are, all his research, all these facts, everything that he's put in his book are actually all researched and backed up. Tons of surveys, tons of research went into it. So that's actually pretty scary. And another fact about energy is, we got to be responsible for the energy that we bring into this space. So whatever space that we're in, whether we're teaching a class, talking to someone one-on-one, being with our family, we have to be responsible for the energy. What kind of energy do we want to bring in? And he said, be the power plant, be that radiating power plant so that you can generate all this joy and happiness for people around you. A lot of people, you might come across some that are very sensitive to energy, or that you just kind of like pick things up, or they can tune into your vibration energy. So, you ever wonder, sometimes you stand next to someone and you just feel like, oh, I don't get this good vibe. And it's, perhaps like they're just not radiating that. Like they're, probably something is just having a bad day, but you can feel it. And, with vibration, it can be felt. So think about that, be the power plant. And he also mentioned about adding morning exercises. Of course, that's great, for stimulating the mind and obviously healthy for the body. And he also said we should take a break every 50 minutes to recharge our energy. And when he said take a break every 50 minutes, that's not taking a 50-minute break every 50 minutes. Otherwise, we won't get things done. But he just said, every 15 minutes, set alarm on your computer or your phone or anywhere, do some stretches or, some breathing exercise. And of course, reach out to your oils and just, inhale, just take a break. And then you actually get more productive when you get back onto it. Now, raising necessity. This is, basically telling yourself, why is it necessary to win in whatever you're doing? Or why is it necessary to do good? So you got to raise it. So raise the bar and saying, why do I need this? Like, why is it necessary for me? So for some people, let's say, who are in this business, why do you need it to be, why do you want to do good? Why is it so necessary for you to do so? Some people might be because I want to have the time freedom to spend time with my family, or I want to have the freedom to work from home, or I want to spend, more time with my children at home so I don't have a full-time job. Or some might say, well, I want to support my husband, so he doesn't need to work. So there's so many different ways. And some people might, have, they want to build a school or have some sort of dream. So identifying that and tell yourself, like, why is it necessary for you to do so? And then it comes under the social aspect, increasing productivity. And Brennan actually said achievement isn't the problem. It's actually alignment. So when we're misaligned, when we're not aligned with what matters to us and what's true to us, that's when we're being least productive. So the moment we're aligned with, our passion and our purpose, productivity, there's no big issue around that. So he says, pour on things that matter, like pour on things that really matter to you, and just try to do things that, don't produce any efficient outcomes for yourself. In developing influence, this is when he said to teach people how to think, rather than selling. So we don't just want to sell people oil, sell people the products, and just sell, because that's not what we are, and that's not how we do things. We share, we educate, but it's also teaching people how to think. Think about how to use the products. Trying to be that role model for them, and it's for an example, rather than people asking, hey, what can I do for this? So rather than just telling them the answer straight out, because people tend to learn better if they think of things themselves, think of solutions themselves. So then you might ask them, what do you think? What kind of products would you be able to use in this situation? And then they will make them think. So then at the one, they're not so reliant on you, and two, you're teaching them. You're teaching them how to think for themselves. So whenever they come across a situation, they're like, okay, right, what do I do in this situation? And then guide them. And, even to the point of dosage and frequency, just kind of have that kind of healthy back and forth discussion, so that you're just not spoon feeding the answers. Yeah, if you understand what I'm trying to say. I found this to be helpful because some people that have, let's say, constantly come to me for questions, and every single time they keep asking me the same question, and I give them the same answer. And one day I just realized, I think I've got to go about it differently. So the next time this person came to me, and we have a group chat that's, we share loads of education information. So then I wonder, well, all the answers are there. So then I would just ask back this person. I just said, what do you think? What do you think you would do in this situation? Or what would you use? And they would actually pause, and then they would think, and they would actually give me an answer. And, more often it's right. They're on the right track. And one, you're also empowering them, and two, it gives them a chance to really think. Yeah. And finally, demonstrating courage. Now, courage is trying to do something that matters to you every day, whatever it is. Just go out there and just be brave and have that courage. And if you need a little bit of help, use some valor, and inhale valor and apply it on your chest and wrist. And also try to speak up for yourself. So in certain situations, just have that courage to speak up for yourself and stand up for what you think is right. So I highly suggest you to get his book, High Performance Habits, if you really want to go in depth. This is on my pile of next to read books. I have a lot, but it's definitely on there. So hopefully maybe I'll share more in future webinars, like any of these little discoveries. So this book is actually in the top 3 best business and leadership books of 2017. And it's also the bestseller on the list. And he finally left us with this note of what his father imparted and shared, and told him that this is how he wanted Brendan to live his life. And this is also now what he would want everybody to remember. So he said to be yourself, be honest, do your best, take care of your family, treat people with respect, be a good citizen, and always chase your dreams. So I found that this is really, really sweet. So I kept note of this. And so now day 3, we moved on to the official farm tour from the retreat. And this time we went to a different farm, called St. Mary's in Idaho. And this is the first ever farm that Young Living had. So from 1992, that's when Gary got the farm. And if you can see that, the picture, the top, the smaller squares, the top left one with the lavender and the truck. So not too far from that, that is where Gary proposed to Mary. Or some people think Mary proposed to Gary, because when Gary told Mary, he said, "Mary, I've got to go back to France." And Mary said, "I'm not going unless we're married." And then Gary said, "Well, I guess we better get married then." So there's a debate of, like who proposed to who, but it was really sweet. That was the spot where it all happened. And some people actually don't know the story of how St. Mary's came about. So back in, the early 90s, Gary, frequented a lot of trips to France, went to, learn with farmers there and to get lavender seeds. So he smuggled lavender seeds in his cowboy boots and hat from Provence in France. And this is where France is the largest producer of lavender in the world. And now I think Young Living owns probably 90 to 95% of France lavender fields. It's pretty amazing. So he started smuggling these lavender seeds, brought it back to St. Mary's farm, and started planting in 1/8 of an acre farm. And today it's a 200-acre farm. So when he started to plant his seeds, and that's when he said, okay, if I can distill lavender, then he's on to something. And as you know, he successfully did it in his kitchen. He distilled the first batch of lavender. And as we know, the rest is history. And actually back in 2011, Gary got a call from France, like one of the farms, that their species of lavender was in trouble. They were hit with virus, fungus, and there was a massive drought happening. So the quality of lavender wasn't as good anymore, and they couldn't use it, like they couldn't harvest. So what Gary did was he brought the original seeds, the seeds that that he brought to St. Mary's, and grew all these lavender fields. So he brought the seeds from these plants back to France to help them, and from there they populated it, and from that, Gary literally saved the original species of lavender called true lavender. So now all the lavender fields are happier and healthy. So without that, without his him smuggling his seeds, he was not able to bring back the true original lavender back. So all those lavender farmers are eternally grateful and thankful for Gary for that. And St. Mary's used to plant clary sage and peppermint, but due to unfavorable conditions, they no longer plant those in that farm. So now, today they grow lavender, and actually predominantly Melissa, because lavender fields, most of it has been shifted to the Mona farm in Utah. So besides lavender, Melissa, and now they're trying to grow goldenrod and yarrow. So hopefully soon there'd be goldenrod and yarrow essential oils coming out from this farm. You can see there the top picture. So that's another cook, like all the different, the massive stainless steel cooks. The top right, so these are like, the stainless steel chambers where the oil passes through, the cooling coil, the condenser, and then that is actually Mary. If some people might not know who she is, she's our CEO of Young Living, and that's her son, Joseph. They came along for the retreat, and we heard a wonderful, heartfelt speech from Mary during lunchtime. It was quite a few teary-eyed in the crowd as she spoke of, the late Gary and the story of, of them and the history of the place. And in fact, that farm is where they had the first house. And we got to see Gary and Mary's first house in that farm. And they also planted lavender. So there was a section of the farm where they grew lavender specifically for us members to go over and harvest. So we got to pick lavender, the floral buds, and to bring some home. So these little purple bags, we got to bring some of these lavender buds home. And the bottom center picture is where they filter Melissa. And at the bottom right, so that's the Melissa plant. And every single one of us got a free bottle of Melissa given to us. And just a little bit of information about Melissa. They normally harvest it around the 4th of July because that's when it's fullest, that's when it's in full bloom. And it's so the reason why Melissa is so much more expensive than lavender is because of the yield. Because lavender, so if you see one of those stainless steel cooks, so one cook of lavender, the amount that yields from one cook, you need about 4 to 5 times cooks for Melissa. So that's why you need more plant materials, more manpower and time, and because there's actually a very small window of harvesting, so that's why. And for every lavender, 2.8 kilos, they get about 2.8 kilos per cook, but you only get 0.7 kilos, so not even a kilo of cooks per cook of Melissa. And here is an example of a cooker. So this is where the stainless steel chamber where they pack all the plant materials. And then that's where, you see at the bottom there's holes. So this is where the steam rises. The steam rises to cook the plant materials. And about 19 kilos of Melissa can fit into one cook. And one cook, like I mentioned, only yields very little bit. And in this year, one cook is pretty much half a mason jar. So if you know what how big a mason jar is, it's roughly only about 500 mils. So it's very, very little. That's why it's such an expensive oil. And Melissa plant has only a 10 years life expectancy, and it takes 3 years to grow. So, and the harvesting, like I said, have a really small window. They only have a 2-week window, so 14 days of harvest. And in one of these distillation, it takes about 2 hours to get the maximum use of the oil. And here's a guy who's one of the managers at the farm that was telling us a little bit about it.
Spread it out with pitchforks all by hand, so it can stress for about 2 hours. You ever take a plant, we're waiting for the brick stem to come up, which we test with a bricks machine. What that does is you put a drop of oil on it, look into the sunlight, and it gives you the number of bricks is. So after the bricks is so high on the top side, we go through, we flip it all, and then let it stress again for another hour, 2 hours. And then we go ahead and we push it up here into the cooker. We have to make sure that all the chains are out of here, because it's very, very important after the cook's over. So we load it with the skid steer. We get it as tight as we can. The process of cooking begins after we batten down the lid, make sure it's tight, hook up the swan neck, and then they're starting to cook. Fast forward an hour and a half. We then pull the chain back or take the lid back off and hook the swan neck. That's what we call the puck or the plug of the cooked material. Lift it up with the slider, which is right here. Lift it up, we take it to where that dump truck is currently parked, and we offload it. And in the process of all that, we have more material sitting out here on the deck. That's the basics. So if anybody has any questions or needs further explanation, go ahead. I'll turn it over to you guys.
So this is like, you know, we got to go down to see the entire, the chambers. And this is another guy trying to explain the process of getting the Melissa oil.
And then I'll filter it through a non-filtered coffee filter. And then the oil, like I said, is lighter than what the water is, so it'll actually be in layers. So it'll go water, cellulose, oil. We don't hope for water. That's where this decanting process comes through. So I can get all the water, all the cellulose out, and anything that is cellulose, I just put it back into the separator. That way I can try to make new oil. It just hasn't been turned into oil yet. So that way, and then at the end of the year, I collect everything. I freeze it, and then I send it down to Utah from there. And they refilter it again, and then it goes into little vials and bottles for you guys to distribute out. So for lavender, I got about 8 of these this year out of a half a cooker. So eight of these, just 8 of these full bottles of Melissa, and now it's 2.81 liters, whereas Melissa only produces about half of that for a full cook. So that's a lot of product, whereas lavender it produces so much more, but everything's different. Juniper's different, balsam fir, blue spruce, all of it's been different. I've been to Mona, I've been to Highland Flats, I've been here working all and helped out with all of it. It's weird to see Melissa. You would think it's so green and vibrant and produce a lot of oil, but really it doesn't. And a truckload's about 15 rows out there, depending on the height of the plants, the size of them. So 8 jars of Melissa. No, for lavender. 8 jars. A half a cooker of lavender got me 2.81 liters this year, whereas an entire cook of Melissa only produced a half of a mason jar.
Why it's so valuable.
Out of the entire farm, we got 19 kilos this year. So about a 5-gallon bucket worth.
Out of the entire farm.
Out of the entire farm. That's why it's so expensive. There's just not a lot of it. It doesn't produce a lot.
Name the products that Melissa are in. No. What products do we have? No, what products do we have that Melissa are in? There's a couple. There's Melissa and the toner.
So now you truly understand how the process and the yield. So hence Melissa is very expensive. So day 4 was rafting day. It was great fun. We got to ride down the Spokane River, and it was just a fun day. We got to make new friends, and yeah, it was really, really fun. And the water was very, very cold. And then that night, we also had a farewell dinner. We were all gifted a wooden watch, and the wood is made out of sandalwood. Really, really special. And they had entertainment from these 2 guys called the Passing Zone. I think they were featured in America's Got Talent or something, or yeah, some talent show. And I think they were the finalist of that. So it was very, very entertaining. We got to, mingle around, meet new people, and just hear, from leaders and other people from around the world, what they were doing, some insights, and it was really nice. Wonderful stories from them. So I really thank you for tuning in and allowing me to share with you my journey and the story and experiences I went through. And I really hope and wish that all of you get a chance to experience this. These reward trips are absolutely worth achieving and going to, because you get to gain so many insights, and more importantly is going to visit the farms and really seeing where the oil comes from start till finish. And that's where you really get to appreciate and understand the quality. So, and you can explain to people like there's nothing like it out there, that this is the purest and it's the best. It's the best that you'll ever get. So, and we were obviously spoiled from the first day till the last. So it was definitely a really memorable trip. If this is something that you want to aim for and that you really want to experience, speak to your community leaders and let them guide you and let them help you guide you along the way and come up with a plan on how you can achieve this rank and and get you there. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.